Clarice never forgot those dead, calculating eyes. The fiction was based on something much worse: reality.
You're dead, Starling. Johnson, good job. Good entry, good command. Starling, where's your danger area?
Corner, sir.
Did you check the corner?
No, sir.
That's the reason you're dead.
Number 3. The entire movie is one giant geographic deception. The story spans Baltimore, Memphis, West Virginia, and beyond. Viewers traveled across America with Clarice Starling. Except they didn't. Every single scene was shot in Pennsylvania, a state never even mentioned in the plot. The crew turned Pittsburgh into Baltimore, suburban areas into Memphis, and local facilities into FBI headquarters. The movie is basically an elaborate Pennsylvania tourism video, disguised as a thriller. Geography teachers everywhere are still confused.
If the beetle moves one of your men, does that still count?
Of course it counts. How do you play?
Agent Starling?
Number 4. Jonathan Demme's soundtrack demands drove people insane. Demme wasn't just specific about music. He was obsessively, neurotically particular about every note. The score had to be psychologically manipulative, designed to burrow into viewers' minds like Lecter himself. Sessions lasted for hours as Demme fine-tuned emotional manipulation through sound. The result? A soundtrack that's as terrifying as the visuals. The music became another character in the film. Some say it still haunts the recording studio.
1 week of the year, you get to leave the hospital and go here. Plum Island.
Number 5. Goodbye Horses wasn't supposed to be iconic. It just happened. Q Lazarus's Goodbye Horses was a relatively unknown track until Buffalo Bill started dancing to it in the most disturbing scene imaginable. The song became an instant cult hit, but not for the reasons anyone expected. It's now impossible to hear without picturing Ted Levine's terrifying performance. The track went from obscurity to infamy in 118 minutes of screen time. Q Lazarus probably never saw that coming, and things only got weirder when the cameras started rolling. Number 6. Jodie Foster and Anthony Hopkins were too scared to talk to each other. During the entire filming process, Foster and Hopkins never had one proper conversation. Not one. Hopkins stayed so deep in character that Foster couldn't separate him from Lecter. She was genuinely terrified of the man behind the mask. The psychological distance created authentic tension that you can see in every scene. Their fear of each other became the movie's secret weapon, method acting taken to disturbing extremes.
Oh, Clarice, your problem is you need to get more fun out of life.
You were telling me the truth back in Baltimore, sir. Please continue now.
Well, I've read the case files, have you? Everything you need to find him is right there in those pages.
Number 7. Hopkins cruelly mocked Foster's accent, and it wasn't in the script. During filming, Hopkins decided to mock Jodie Foster's accent in front of the entire crew. This wasn't Lecter being mean to Starling. This was Hopkins being genuinely cruel to Foster. She later said it left her feeling small and humiliated, and nearly made her see red. The incident created real tension that you can feel bleeding through their performances. Sometimes the best acting comes from authentic anger. Foster still remembers how that felt.
After your father's murder, you were orphaned. You were 10 years old. You went to live with cousins on a sheep and horse ranch in Montana.
And one morning I just ran away.
Number 8. The prison glass wasn't just a prop, it was protection. That thick glass separating Lecter and Starling in their scenes wasn't just for the story. It became psychologically necessary because Hopkins was so intimidating that Foster needed a physical barrier to feel safe enough to perform. The glass was as much about protecting Jodie Foster as it was about containing Hannibal Lecter. Sometimes reality and fiction blur in uncomfortable ways. The barrier worked for both characters and actors.
What happened to your drawings?
Punishment, you see, for MIGs. Just like that gospel program. When you leave, they'll turn the volume way up.
Number 9. Hopkins' performance was so convincing, it scared everyone on set. It wasn't just Foster who was terrified. Hopkins' portrayal was so convincing that the entire crew began treating him like he was actually dangerous. People would actively avoid him between takes, change directions to avoid walking past him, and speak in hushed tones when he was around. The man had become the monster, even when the cameras weren't rolling. That's either brilliant method acting or deeply concerning behavior. Number 10. Hopkins improvised the bone-chilling sound that haunts your dreams. After delivering his famous fava beans and Chianti line, Hopkins made that terrifying, slurping, kissing sound. It wasn't in the script. It was pure, disturbing improvisation. The sound was so unsettling, they kept it in the final cut. And it became scripted, rehearsed, or discussed. It was pure, spontaneous improvisation that was so disturbing they knew immediately it had to stay. The moment was so authentically unsettling that it became one of the most quoted scenes in film history. Sometimes the most terrifying moments aren't planned. They just happen. And we're all still traumatized by it.
I did not kill him, I assure you. Merely tucked him away very much as I found him after he'd missed 3 appointments.
If you didn't kill him, then who did, sir?
Who can say? Best thing for him, really.
Number 12. They used an actual dead moth, not CGI or props. The death's head hawk moth in the film wasn't computer-generated or a prop. The crew handled real deceased moths for the iconic poster and movie scenes. There's something deeply unsettling about knowing that the moth imagery was genuine. It adds an extra layer of creepiness that audiences can somehow sense. Real death in a movie about death. The symbolism writes itself. And yes, handling dead moths for art is exactly as weird as it sounds.
You still think you're gonna walk on some beach and see the birdies? No, I don't think so. I called Senator Ruth Martin. She never heard of any deal with you.
Number 13. Ted Levine's disturbing dance was based on real killer psychology. That horrifying dance sequence wasn't just weird choreography. Lavine researched actual serial killers to create movements that were authentically unsettling rather than theatrically creepy. He studied real psychological profiles to understand how someone like Buffalo Bill would actually move and behave. The result is a performance that feels genuinely disturbing because it's rooted in genuine pathology. Method acting meets criminal psychology.
It rubs the lotion on its skin. It does this whenever it's told.
Mister, my family will pay cash. Whatever ransom you're asking for, they'll pay it.
Number 14. Jodie Foster's emotional reactions were real psychological responses. Many of Foster's most powerful emotional moments weren't acting. They were genuine responses to Hopkins's intensity. Her fear, anxiety, and discomfort were real. The movie captured authentic psychological reactions because Foster was actually experiencing them. Sometimes the best performances come from real emotions, even when they're uncomfortable. Foster was acting Starling, but feeling genuine terror.
His dress, makeup. Raspo was a transvestite?
In life? Oh no. Garden variety manic depressive. Tedious. Very tedious.
Number 15. The claustrophobic scenes were shot in actually claustrophobic conditions. Those uncomfortable, cramped scenes weren't created with camera angles. They were shot in genuinely confined spaces with the entire crew squished together. Everyone's discomfort was real, and it shows on screen. The psychological pressure was authentic because the physical pressure was authentic. Sometimes the best way to capture claustrophobia is to actually be claustrophobic. The crew probably still has PTSD from those tiny spaces, but the real story is what happened after the movie was released.
Put her in that bucket.
Now you get me a telephone and lower it down here now!
Number 16. The film accomplished a feat that only 2 other movies in history had managed. The Silence of the Lambs achieved the rare Big 5 Oscar sweep. Picture, director, actor, actress, and screenplay. Only the 3rd film in cinema history to accomplish this. It wasn't just a horror movie anymore. It was officially cinema royalty. The Academy recognized that sometimes the most disturbing films are also the most brilliant. Horror finally got the respect it deserved.
Do you think if you save poor Catherine, you could make them stop, don't you? You think if Catherine lives, you won't wake up in the dark ever again to that awful screaming of the lamb.
Number 17. Anthony Hopkins won Best Actor for only 16 minutes of screen time. 16 minutes. That's how long Hopkins appears in the entire film. It's one of the shortest performances ever to win Best Actor. But those 16 minutes were so devastating, so psychologically powerful, that they overshadowed every other performance that year. Quality over quantity taken to its absolute extreme. 16 minutes that changed cinema forever.
I did not kill him, I assure you, merely tucked him away very much as I found him after he'd missed 3 appointments.
If you didn't kill him, then who did, sir?
Who can say?
Number 18, real FBI agents who helped make the movie started having psychological problems. The FBI consultants who provided authenticity for the psychological profiling reportedly had nightmares about how accurate the film was to real cases. Some said it hit too close to actual investigations they'd worked on. The fiction was too realistic for the people who knew the real thing. When FBI agents are disturbed by your movie's accuracy, you've achieved something terrifying. Reality and fiction became uncomfortably blurred.
Look at him, Starling. Tell me what you see.
Oh, he's a white male. Serial killers tend to hunt within their own ethnic groups.
Number 19. International censors weren't worried about violence. They feared the psychology. Several countries banned or heavily censored the film, but not just for violence. Censors were afraid of the psychological manipulation techniques shown, fearing copycat behavior. The movie was considered psychologically dangerous, not just graphically disturbing. When governments fear your film's mental impact, you've created something uniquely powerful. The mind games were scarier than the murders.
They found the ambulance in a parking garage at Memphis. Our crew was dead. Killed a tourist, too. Got his clothes, cash. By now he could be anywhere.
He won't come after me.
Oh, really?
He won't.
Number 20. Foster and Hopkins' on-set tension never fully went away. Decades later, Foster and Hopkins' inability to have normal conversations during filming created lasting effects. Their reunion interviews still maintain an underlying unease that audiences can sense. The psychological distance they maintained for the film never completely disappeared. Some performances leave permanent marks. Even now, there's something unsettling about watching them interact. The movie ended, but the method never fully stopped.
What is your worst memory of childhood?
Death of my father.
Tell me about it and don't lie, or I'll know.
He was a town marshal. One night he surprised 2 burglars coming out the back of a drugstore.
Bonus fact. The movie's most famous line was never actually said. Here's the fact that will blow your mind. Hannibal Lecter never says, "Hello, Clarice," in the entire film. Never. Not once. When they first meet, he says good morning. Later interactions, different greetings. But that iconic line that everyone quotes, that's become synonymous with the character, it doesn't exist.